Welcome to Through a Glass Darkly Radio. You're listening to us on United Public Radio. And tonight I have a very special guest, Richard Geldreich Jr. He's a software engineer and researcher who has made notable contributions to both the technology and UFO research communities. While he is recognized for his technical expertise in areas such as compression algorithms and GPU programming, Geldreich has increasingly focused on the study of UFO phenomena and government cover-ups. His presentations and writings delve into historical investigations, including the role of radar in early military projects in UFO detection. Geldreich's work in the field has highlighted significant gaps in publicly available data, suggesting deliberate suppression or loss of crucial information related to UFO sightings and encounters. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Richard Geldreich. How you doing, Rich?
Oh, I'm doing really good. How are you, Sean? Thanks for inviting me, man.
No, thanks for coming on. We, I think you broke ChatGPT last week.
That's right. Yeah. By the way, this is unplanned. I didn't. Sean asked me a few hours ago. Hey, come on, you gotta come on. Let's go. I'm like, oh, all right, sure. Yeah. Here's what happened. Actually, I'll explain what happened. Sean is constantly at work on this show, right? He's got like 3 jobs and he's always looking for ideas for new shows, right? So he's always pushing, trying to find new ideas. He's constantly asking people, what do I do? And I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but you started using AI, maybe after I started talking about it. I don't remember. It's been a while, right? I think so, though. And
Probably.
You've gotten more and more into just exploring ideas with AI and on it, whatever. And so I go back and forth. I use AI all the time in my work, mostly for writing Python scripts, math problems, things like that, right? I never use it for real code. I don't, trust it for that. I would have to fix it, Anyway, there's also IP issues with that potentially. So, I don't use Copilot, any of that stuff. I do all my own coding myself. However, if I'm making a script which has to process a bunch of data and I need a throwaway script, right? I can either write it in Python myself, but I could just also type out some sentences to OpenAI ChatGPT and then boom, bang, get it done, right? It's really good for that kind of little stuff. Also, if I'm solving math problems and looking for optimization packages in Python, I'm not a Python expert, right? So I'm a C++ guy. Anyway. Sean's always looking for ideas, so he's always asking ChatGPT, like, "What do I do? Let's give me some ideas," Anyway, and he tells me about this, and he inspires me to keep trying to go back to OpenAI.
To be fair, I give ChatGPT the ideas, but ChatGPT does all the work in integrating like the 3 ideas I give it.
Yeah, and so last week I'm like, let's just try AI again because I've had a lot of success with OpenAI, with Claude, with Grok, on other things like translate this, like simple stuff, like translate some text. I have like 100,000 events I need to translate from French to English. It just knocks that out. It is not a big deal. Or I need to extract certain types of information from textual records or, that kind of stuff, right? That's all very vanilla. Or I need to translate a book. I translated UFO Glasnost, which came out right for the Soviet Union collapse. It was one of their key books, which they released in German, strangely, and I had to translate from German to English, which was actually I did it at a couple pages at a time, things like that. But anyway, I went back into I have it right next to me actually. I went back into AI and I just started 2 or 3 different threads with several models, and I've also been taking them and putting them in the Grok to get its analysis as well, right? And I am very familiar with AI. I know it freaking hallucinates. It can hallucinate all the time. Especially, it was much worse when it came out. It is better now for sure, but it's not perfect. You cannot ever trust it for anything like firm. You know what I mean? Like, no. But you have to trust and verify. Kind of like not trust and verify. You got to verify everything. So anyway, I just did a deep research pass on it. And I'm like, hey, I know there are cases in World War II history where the U.S. military had to cover things up for real. Like it's part of history. For example, Los Alamos leaked in 1944. It leaked into a newspaper article. I posted it on my X a few days ago. And I didn't know about this. I had no idea. They called Oppenheimer Mr. Big, right? And Mr. Big's down there running the show. And that leaked newspapers, and that sent U.S. military intelligence crazy, right? So it found stuff like that, and it just kept going on and on and on. It found this, it found that. And, I posted some of those things, actually. And I found newspaper articles associated with them, so I know it's not hallucinating. By the way, this is 4.5 deep research. Hey, Mac, how you doing? And so I'm like, okay, well, it gave me all these cases, right? And some of them I knew about, and many I didn't. And I verified the key ones. And I'm like, okay, well, Los Alamos leaked. Isn't that interesting? Because that was the deepest, darkest secret, right, of World War II, Manhattan Project. That leaked. Actually, the atomic bombs, and I posted this next to the fact that that was potentially possible. That leaked as well, and it highlighted that as well. And I found my own newspaper articles backing that up across the world that atomic bomb work did leak during the Manhattan Project. In some way or another, rumors leaked, right? Some of them might have been strategic leaks by the U.S. military. Who knows? I don't know. But we're finding stuff. So anyway, I then asked it to pivot, and with deep research again, same threads in the context, the World War II military censorship. I asked it about post-World War II censorship, and I found a case, and this is true too, where the U.S. military and intelligence had to step in 1950 and start, and there was a leak of key H-bomb information, and it was written by scientists, and they had to just clamp down on it. I mean, this is like beginning of the Cold War, right? And you can't have Soviets or somebody else reading this sensitive information, so they actually sent AEC or whatever, representatives, and they destroyed the printing press. They destroyed anything that was printed. They clamped down on that. And that was 1950. Now we could go on and on and on and on about this. So what's important about this though, before Roswell and after Roswell, we can indicate historical cases of censorship from the U.S. military intelligence establishment, right? I mean, it's just the way history works. I'm sure the Soviets had to do the same thing in their own crazy way, right? So anyway, then I pivoted. I'm like, okay, now what I'd like you to do, deep research again, and I've posted this stuff. Just go find me cases of UAP military censorship. Now, not claims of military censorship necessarily.
Actual.
Like we all know, Blue Book was an official program that ran for years. Project Sign predecessors, Project Sign, Project Grudge. There are well-known cases where records got lost, right? Or sensitive things happen. Military, air bases were overflown. They wanted to hush that up. Or key figures. I think it was Kehoe who talked on TV in the late 50s, and they turned off his microphone when he started talking about the UFO. Or I think they would have called it the UFO cover-up or UFO back then, not saucers in late 50s.
Right.
But some would still use the word saucer, right? But anyway, so I basically asked, hey, find me some cases where people claimed or actual UFO censorship. Boom. Massive. The thread gets massive. I'm like, what the hell? That's really interesting. You found that deep research. That's great. Yeah. And by the way, you can say it's hallucinating, but every single case has URL links. Every single one is linkable. Click, 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 and you can research it yourself, and you can clearly see. Hold on a second. Those UFO people, they're an underdog, but they have something. They have a case that can be made. So anyway. Then I just continued just telling, okay, here's what they just did to Chris Mellon. He's a well-known figure who wants more transparency, but he's a very balanced, in my opinion, he's a very balanced man, right? He's not a believer. He's sometimes, in my opinion, a little too reserved. He's a very reserved man, right? But he is saying
he's very narrative focused.
Yeah. But he's a balanced man. He's not going out there and saying, they're picking up cows and, he's not coming out like that. He's very hedges his words very well. Yet the mob, the Wikipedia mob, still attacks this man and deletes his account. So I put that in as an incident. We have an incident here. Boom, he's deleted. Malmgren is not. I don't think he's deleted, but they hacked his. They messed with his profile and they were going to delete it.
I think they either deleted it or they were going to delete it, but now it's back up. But they basically gelded him completely of all the stuff that he did.
There are zealots coming on to X and doxing this deceased gentleman who's, from what I understand, an American patriot, really, an old-fashioned American patriot who possibly saved us from World War III. I'm not an expert.
He saved us from Curtis LeMay, who
I know others are saying he had a deeper impact, right? So I don't know. I'm not an expert on Malmgren, right? I'm not, but I'm just saying, putting out there. Others are saying this man was a key American figure at the right. He's a presidential advisor over multiple administrations, and the mob is coming out and doxing this man, claiming he had bankruptcies. And I'm like, wait a second. I looked at the bankruptcies. By the way, this posted this. They're like posting this on threads. I know this is the wiki crowd, and they're coming. They're fighting us on our, well, I call it our platform, but they have their little platform, which is a cult in my opinion. The cult of truth. The cult of truth. And they send their boys on the X, right? Wait, now you're in our domain. Okay, let's see what you got. And I look at it, as soon as I see it, I'm like, this is medical debt. It's clearly medical debt. I didn't even know it was medical debt. Actually, it was. He had cancer. He had to take
medical bankruptcy.
Yeah, right. The poor guy had cancer. Here's an American presidential advisor who possibly saved us from World War III, right? The poor man had cancer and near the end of his life. And he lost, financially took a huge hit because the American medical system's a scam, in my opinion.
Allegedly.
No,
some would say it's a very fair system. Sorry, I have to balance it out.
I'm sorry. It is full of fraud. It is full of fraud and is a grift in many cases.
Allegedly
for you, but I have my own opinion. I got First Amendment rights. So whatever. There are limits to those rights, though. I still show YouTube. So anyway, the mob is sending people on X, trying to dox and harass support people, just pointing out that deleting these accounts is purging. It's like, I read out of 1984. They're not even canceling folks that come out and high level figures, credible figures, and saying,
it's like Stalin erasing people from official government photos.
Yeah,
right?
There's a dude, that's the Stalin, and then boom, it's gone. That's Malmgren, that's Mellon. Mellon's gone, by the way. That's I checked. Anyway, I doubt they're going to restore his profile, which is fine, because here's the deal. There's an ex-user pointed out that's fine. The internet routes around interference, right? It routes around lack of information. So when AI goes and searches, like somebody asks who's Chris Mellon, it isn't going to find Wikipedia's little entry. It's gone. Now it's going to go to some other proper encyclopedia that's not ran by the mob. Literally,
it's amazing how quickly. It's amazing how quickly all that Wikipedia stuff happened in proximity from a time
to
perspective.
The letter. Yeah, the White House sent the letter.
And the Malmgren interview, right?
Yeah, I know. There's an alternate theory. There is an alternative theory scenario too. We did an analysis on this. We're trying to figure out the timing of this. First, Malmgren, unfortunately,
it's definitely number two. It's definitely
and he passes away. And then within hours, they're trying to delete his accounts.
Well, it's not even passes away. He passed away on February 13th. This happened immediately after the video was published.
The interview. Yes, but that was his last interview, right? A last major interview. In my mind, but there's that's how it happened. But then the Pope passes away, which might have nothing to do with it, right?
Might not have anything to do with it, but it's
great turning.
It's kind of
Anyway, so here's the deal. What we've been trying to figure out is we know that
also Ramirez poked his head up again. John Ramirez.
Yeah.
Mellon did an interview.
Sean, we have to tell the audience.
Chris Cuomo's page.
Yeah, that's right. Mellon comes out, he gets the interview. But listen, we have to tell the audience what we've done here is we're trying to use AI to just make predictions and compare hypotheses. That's all. And sometimes sometimes I plug shit in and I'm like, nah, I can't buy that. But it's interesting. It'll give you what it's really useful for is making you think. It's good to make metaphors sometimes, right? It's just an idea generator. Sometimes hallucinations actually are randomness in the act can be very useful. Mm-hmm. As long as you realize it's a tool, it's with a sharp knife. And if you're screwing around in there, it could cut you, metaphorically speaking. You got to be really careful. It's like any tool, though, right? You can sit there, you sawing wood, building a house. You can cut your hand off, your fingers off too. You mess up, so you have to be careful. The good news is it's getting better and better. But I don't know if we should talk, Sean. Should we talk about the theories of? The deal is this: Wikipedia is. Here's my opinion. It is a centralized data repository, so it's a juicy target by many players, both perhaps good and perhaps chaotic, neutral, and not so good. Many players are going to be attracted, and it has anonymity, right? You can go in there, you're an Iranian, and you're just angry up the Trump thing, right? You're just angry that Trump's always talking about you. So you can go on Wikipedia and you can start raising hell, for example. I'm just making an example. I'm not picking on Iran specifically. I have nothing against Iran, but you could be in China and you could be mad that the rebel province is not part of China. So you could go into Wikipedia, you could build an account up, you could rise the ranks in Wikipedia, And now you can corrupt Wikipedia. Anything American, you could go, no, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to downvote that. Thumbs down, Roman style. The man gets executed. The axe comes down. And the letter, if you read that, there's a recent letter sent by the White House to Wikipedia, actually the foundation that runs it, I think. And it's saying, hey, there's some problems here. What's going on? And it lists like boom, 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 boom. It lists like all of the issues. Now, it turns out the board members of Wikipedia, or the foundation that runs it, are all foreign from Americans' perspective, right? So I smell problems here personally. I smell many problems, and I just, I'm not part of some.
Do you have details?
Here, right?
Do you have any details of who specifically is on the board?
I haven't researched it that deeply. It's just like hot off the press. It's just like 48, 72 hours ago. But the deal with this is we've mixed up rumors for many years that, there's some strange things going on in Wikipedia. And over the years, there's a strange activity in terms of, for sure, UAP. It is not an unbiased source. I don't even use it as a researcher at this point. I route around it. I go anywhere else for information. The mob, unfortunately, cannot be trusted in there. And it also impacts computer science algorithms, too. I've tried implementing comp sci algorithm programmer. I tried. And by the way, I've been programming since 1986, so I know a little bit of what I'm doing. And I have a lot of
I got the answer for you via ChatGPT. All right, so the current board members in their countries. So there's 12, okay? There's Natalia Timkiv from Ukraine. There's Lorenzo Losa from Italy. There's Kathy Collins, who's the vice chair. The chair is from Ukraine. Who's the vice chair? Kathy Collins is from the United States. Shani Evanstein Sigalov is from Israel. Ezra Al Shafai is from Bahrain. Raju Narisetti is from India. Luis Bittencourt Emilio is from Brazil. Victoria Doronina is from Russia. Mike Peel is from United Kingdom. Crystal Steigenberger is from Germany. Masiuj Artur Nadzilewicz is from Poland. And then the founder, Jimmy Wales, is, of course, from the United States.
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
Yeah, and it's an interesting mix, right? It doesn't listen. Are there any Americans listed? Did I miss other than?
Yeah, there were two. There were two.
Okay, but the majority are not Americans. And all I'm saying is, like, I'm an American. Okay, my grandfather was at Pearl Harbor on the USS California when it was hit under the guns, and he's actually right behind me. And you can't really see it because it's blocked, and my father was in Nam. He's in the U.S. military, U.S. Army for years, and New Jersey National Guard. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't trust them. I'm sorry. I just don't trust Wikipedia. I don't trust it at all, period. There's something wrong with this. To me, it smells something's wrong. And at the minimum, the mob, it actually acts like a mob, and it actually acts like a cult in many ways, too. Because you go into here's the deal. A person who's technically oriented goes to Wikipedia, but doesn't use Wikipedia internally, doesn't interact with them all the time, but sees a page with absolutely false information. For example, Lou Elizondo.
His birthday, right?
Yeah, or
his birth location.
Where he's born. Yeah, totally neutral, factual, provable, verifiable information, right? They won't fix that, because he's Lou Elizondo when he talks about UAP, things like that. Something's not right. And if you go in there and you look at these threads, they're full of this lingo and this and that. It's like walking into a cult and you're new, right? And they don't even want to recruit you. They're just like blah blah talking their language. You don't have any idea what to talk about. Now, if you don't follow the lingo, right? You don't follow the community rules. Boom, you're gone. You're screwed. Nothing's happening. So, and by the way, here's the other problem with Wikipedia. You could be a cabal of individuals. What I mean by cabal is an organized group of people, perhaps funded, perhaps not, that has a bias of some sort, a message to spread or suppress or whatever, right? An angle, a grift, a graft, whatever. You could go behind the scenes. You got two chats active. You got the Wikipedia chat and you got your private chat, and you got your boys all arranged to go into Wikipedia and manage the operation. And that's it. It's over. It's over. It's an infiltrated, compromised platform. It's done. And if the platform doesn't have protections against this, And just so you know, these are my own personal opinions. I'm not being swayed by the White House. I'm not, a freaking, shill for the Trump White House or anything like that. These are my own personal opinions because I've been researching a topic which is kind of an underdog topic for years now, and it's really fascinating. And here's the deal: I have not seen what I believe verifiable UAP. I've seen a triangle one time, but it was near an air base in New Jersey. I cannot be certain that it didn't have the 5 observables, so it didn't have like instantaneous acceleration, things like that. It was probably ours, right? Probably some landing secret craft or something. But I don't know. I don't think it was UAP. So I haven't seen anything, right? But however, I'm telling you, as a programmer who has worked on big projects, big commercial projects for years, I've been through. We're going to talk about this. We have 2 freaking hours. We're going to talk about the work we've been doing here. Collecting all of the data that we can find.
Rich can't even stop talking. He was worried about how are we going to fill 2 hours? What are we going to talk about? But keep going.
Yeah. Just behind the scenes of this man's operation, he has advisors, unofficial, de facto, not de jure advisors, and just off the books, right? Off the books. I'm one of those advisors. I give him advice all the time. He doesn't listen to it most of the time, probably, or much of the time. Like I'm trying to help him get his marketing. How many times did he tell you to like and subscribe? None.
Like
0.
and subscribe.
Nothing. The guy's not. He's on the wheel. And Conan the Barbarian near the beginning, right? They raid the village. They take Conan. They put him on the wheel for decades. That's Sean. It is. He's on the wheel right now. He doesn't remember half the stuff that's on his own show. I feed him show transcripts into AI. I save it as training material. I go to Sean. I'm like, Sean, you realize this man on your show said this? And he's like, Rich, it's all a blur. I don't know. What? What was this? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm busy. I'm at work. I don't know. So yeah, the man's on the wheel. So please like and subscribe. Give him a view. This man works for every view, every subscriber. Right. He does. He watches the data. He's like, Rich, I have lost 1 subscriber. He panics.
It takes 17 hours of viewing to earn
poor
1 subscriber.
This poor man. Listen, in one show, I'm going to be a little. I'm not going to go on anything you're going to get censored for. Relax, Sean. But I watch a lot of YouTube, right? Because I just program and any shit going in the background. So this is a wide range of shows, all kinds of stuff, right? And all kinds of content. They in one episode will get more subscribers than this man will get in like a month. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? We need to start turfing your show here, man. You need to do. I'm starting to use AI to help him out. I kind of lost my way. I was telling you about Wikipedia, my opinion on Wikipedia.
That's right.
And I'm not going to shut up because here's the problem with Wikipedia. AI is being used, and like many people, I can't believe the numbers I'm seeing. How many people use OpenAI? It's a lot. If it's like 500 million people, like what? Really? Anyway,
already?
Yeah, I saw that on X earlier. So the deal is, if you type in who is Chris Mellon or who is this or who is that, that's up 3 days ago, it would reference Wikipedia. We have a freaking problem here. It's using Wikipedia as a primary reference. But Wikipedia is not reality. That's the truth mob. That's the cult of truth. No, I don't want the mob's opinions. I don't give a rat's patooey about what the mob thinks. I don't freaking care. I really don't. It's just that's how it works. So yeah, I have a 1988 encyclopedia, right? I have several. They're worth nothing now. You can get them on eBay for peanuts. I was
this a World Book encyclopedia.
As a child, we couldn't afford it. I remember as a child, I was growing up in the olden days. Now the 80s and 90s, like an encyclopedia was out of our reach. So to me now, it's like a luxury to have what I wanted as a child, right? So I bought a couple encyclopedias. They came in like 3 boxes. They were in pristine shape. I'm like, wow, look at this going through the encyclopedias, which was a weird experience actually. But anyway, those were encyclopedias, and a guy like Nathan Twining, by the way. Now you can do the freaking web search right now. You can type Nathan Twining UFO memo or UFO quotes, things like that, right? And Nathan Twining said, and this is part of history, the phenomenon reported is something real and not visionary or fictitious. Okay, and that's part of history. It's actually on Wikipedia right now. I'm basically, I didn't research this, but I know that there are many quotes from many high-level figures about UAP. Okay, major figures in history. Now, did they delete them from my encyclopedias because they said these heretical opinions or beliefs or claims? No. These are accomplished men in history, right? They were in war. They saved American soldiers in war, or they fought the Soviets, or they fought the Nazis, right? And they had opinions on UAP, and these were the guys in the trenches next to the radar operators, talking to the pilots, debriefing them, or getting reports of debriefings. And shit was going down, and they were called flying discs, flying saucers, UAPs, or UFOs, right? And they're not being deleted from history. So, but the mob is deleting them, and it pisses. I'm ranting, but it pisses me off.
I've got a rhetorical question for you, because I'm talking about option 2, right? How do you think Susan Gerbic would respond to the very likely fact that her and her group is being used by the intelligence community to amplify the Malmgren message and to make Chris Mellon into a messianic figure?
Yeah, this is so deep. By the way, the topic we were talking about now is so deep. I fed the scenarios into the AI thread that I've one of my favorite AI threads, and it agreed with Sean, which flabbergasted me. So here's the deal. Susan Gerbic works for the Defense Department, right? Right? Okay. Well, she's doing her job.
Or she's friendly with somebody unwittingly or wittingly.
I'm confusing her. Hold on. I didn't mean to say that. I confused her with somebody else. She doesn't work with her.
You're thinking Susan Go. You're thinking
there's another Susan. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Susan Gerbic is the Guerrilla Skeptics, head of the Guerrilla Skeptics.
Now, the Guerrilla Skeptics, here's what I would do as an analyst. First of all, I would trace the money trail. Follow the money. Where does the money go? The money's going to flow from this shadowy org, maybe USAID, and then follow this, and then, it goes to this, probably a nonprofit. And is it ran by Susan and her group? Maybe. Okay. Who's getting paid? Where's the money flowing?
It would probably go to some other nonprofit, and then that nonprofit would fund Susan's nonprofit.
And have some events, to grease the wheels here and there. I don't know. But I would trace the money flows, right? For sure. So what is the question, Sean? About Susan.
So stepping all the way back, here's my theory. Okay, so there's two things.
The timing. Okay. It's the timing is the tough.
You look at the timing and the fuss. Okay, so the fuss. Well, let's start with the timing. Jesse Mitchell's puts out this video on a certain date. I don't know if there was any importance to when he put it out or if he just put it out when it was ready. But someone in his network clearly knew it was coming and knew it was coming in advance, because on a dime, like, you cannot organize a herd of people this quickly. But the very next day, Malmgren's Wikipedia page was either under threat of removal or was removed. Mellon's page was removed. You instantly had Lou Elizondo.
By the way, the White House letter came out around that time too, threatening Wikipedia.
Also, I'm not sure if
that's foot killed in your fire here.
What I'd want to check is if the Pope died before the Malmgren.
I don't think you need to put in the Pope. I really don't. So basically, I'm going to repeat what Sean said. Wait, I don't know if the audience understands what the hell we're talking about. Basically, we're saying the timing of all of these events is suspicious. It's a little weird. The timing is to tell, like, all of these things going on with Wikipedia, the weird deletions, and the challenges we're trying to figure out. Was Mellon's page and Malmgren's page either purged or almost purged or defaced? Is this like emergent behavior from the mob the mob of truth, right? Or is this a scheme by some pro-disclosure faction to make a messiah out of Mellon? I think I've summarized, right, more or less the scenario.
Yeah, but messiah, I use that language too, but it's kind of strong.
Yeah. Sean invented the phrase.
To make him a hero.
No, it's the messiah effect, which is real. Like what you're describing, I think is a real effect, right? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was against this. I was like, Sean, I don't believe it. No, I think the mob, because we've seen cases before where the truth cabals, the cults of truth, goes out there and suppresses UAP information. This has been happening for decades. This is nothing new. Nothing new is happening here at all, right? But the timing is suspicious. With the boys back, I call the intelligence people the boys a lot, right? With the boys back in the back room, pull some strings to have some, shadowy characters on Wikipedia, because all of them are shadowy, by the way. They all could be anonymous.
Well, they learned from the drone debacle. Like, that was an absolute display of utter incompetence. And I think that they learned that the fuss, that they need to kind of they need like a hero. It's professional wrestling writ large in the national security.
I've been using kayfabe.
But not a lot of people understand what kayfabe is.
I'm going to throw this out there. Listen, I think it's Fortean analog. I don't think we can prove or disprove your hypothesis here. I think you're right. And possibly wrong. It's fuzzy.
Yeah, because you amplify. Because all the fuss amplifies the Malmgren interview.
Yeah, right? Just so you know,
gets out the information.
Yeah. The video comes out, and then boom, they suppress the page, and the timing
just helps amplify.
Yeah,
but the timing helps amplify it. However, the timing is also the tell that it's not organic, right? It's very.
Listen, this is a war. Right. This is an information war out here in many ways, right? I'm not.
It is and it isn't. It's like Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, right?
It is and it isn't. You're right, but at the end of the day,
hero and there's the heel, right? There's Travis Taylor, there's the hero, and then there's what's his name? Sean Kirkpatrick is the heel, right?
Yeah,
both on the same side.
He is the heel,
all on the same side.
Yeah. At the end of the day, and I've said this on my ex. Everything you're saying, I said on my ex. There's one party. However, there are factions, but if the party's threatened, they will group together and defend each other, no matter what faction they are on, right? Pro-disclosure, chaotic neutral, anti-disclosure, whatever, right? It's a show. There's three types of disclosure, three main categories. I personally worked with AI.
I like this. Where did you get this, by the way? Because I like these things. But go ahead. Explain
it. Okay. I will tell you where I got each one. Now everybody knows about catastrophic disclosure, right? We've heard this in X. We've heard of this whole foundation when they had.
But define it. Define control. Catastrophic, and then the third one.
All right. Different types of disclosure. First, we have catastrophic. That's where all the people in the programs they're completely dissatisfied with the status quo. The intel guys are dissatisfied that their men are dying or women are dying out there. They're getting zapped in some weird way by Havana syndrome. The aviators are out there flying. UAP gets nearby. They get hurt. They might die, right? People are dying out there for sure. They said this. This is official. So catastrophic is they're like, we're totally dissatisfied. The higher ups are not telling the truth to the American public. This is unconstitutional. Screw this. 30 of them, 20 of them, 100 of them go to Congress. They go to the public. They do the drops. The video drops. The audio drops. The tape drops. Boom. It's a bomb, basically, an information bomb, right? And you got multiple. Imagine 10 grushes, 30 grushes, 50 grushes, right? It's something they cannot control. Okay. Well, so that's catastrophic.
Grush is not. Grush is not really a whistleblower. He's got a doctor or whatever. We're talking about people who.
Yes, we're getting to this. Hold on, we're getting to this. We're getting this. Yes. So now we have what? Now this was first told me by a scientist who's close to another famous scientist at a convention. It's called controlled disclosure. So what does the establishment do when they know they have a volatile situation? They have a lot of people out there with national security oaths. And by the way, I would like to say say hi to my fans and Eglin fans and fans in Australia. I know you're listening. That's fine, guys. Good job. It's fine. Listen away. Here's the deal. The guys on the inside who run these ops, who run this whole situation, the programs, right? They don't want this. They got to control it. They got to bottle this up. So what do? It's called a limited hangout. It's called a modified limited hangout. Now, people on X, many groups on X, there are, cliques on X, right? Have identified this in their own way. They have different ways of describing it. I describe it as an MLH, modified limited hangout. So what a limited hangout is intelligence is like, oh shit, our ops screwed. We need to get ahead of the narrative, whack the dog a bit. I mean, I think whack dog's sort of in the same space. We need to get ahead of the narrative, and basically, if our op is screwed and our situation with the things we're running are screwed, we're going to go and reveal them ourselves so we can control the narrative and get ahead of it.
But we're only going to reveal the iceberg. we're only going to reveal the iceberg, and it's going
Yeah.
to be packaged in another whole, like another Russian, a Russian doll, right?
The boys are controlling it. Good old Mockingbird for version 2.0 continues, right? And so they're gonna have a big party after the great reveal. You know what I mean? Like, hey, here we're doing. Hey, cover up live. We're covering disclosure right now, but it's controlled. There will be certain narratives which are permitted by Napster, and other narratives which are pitched. Suppressed. You might get fleed. It's one of your phrases.
By the way,
you're
not going to say this. You're not going to say this. I'm just going to list the things. Okay. If you talk about abductions, you talk about mutilations, particularly human mutilations, and I got a new one to add to the list. If you talk anything about the Department of Energy and its relationship with all this stuff, there might be other stuff, but I can't think of.
That's crossing. Those topics are red lines. If you cross those topics, I have been told they get very unhappy with you. Very unhappy, and they can use progressively greater means of feedback to he got hey, look at that, he got a call. I'm so kidding.
I'm gonna put you on, you keep talking. I'm gonna talk to I'll be right back.
What? Okay, no problem. Anyway, there is a third type.
John, can you hear me?
John, anyway, there is a third type. I want to see Dr. Brandenburg. Anyway, the third type is something I wasn't aware of until I had it pop up in an AI thread, and that was runaway disclosure. That's really interesting, and it can interact with catastrophic disclosure. So what runaway is, it's a little different. It's an emergent property of the system, and it's where many individuals get a bunch of information about the history of the UAP cover-up and the phenomena. They swap notes. They start talking about the scenes. They're like, wait a second, what's going on? And then they start doing more and more research. They start finding things in archives, the newly digitized newspaper clippings, the FOIAs that have come out and get scanned. Boom. They keep really publishing it. And as they do this, it's interesting. It grows geometrically. More and more and more people start talking. Ex-intelligence people start talking. Ex-military people start talking about what's going on. And it just spreads exponentially. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And that can encourage a form of catastrophic disclosure, and runaway disclosure can interact with each other, and they can feed each other too. So it's extremely from the majestic. You there, Sean? Am I online?
Anyway, yeah, you're online. Can you hear me?
It went down for me. Yeah, I hear you. You hear me?
Yeah.
What's going on, dude? Are we all right over there? Did you get dinged?
Wait, what do you mean?
Dinged. It's a phrase. Did you get dinged? I'm on the East Coast. You don't need to know these phrases. Did the big man call and say, "Hey, Sean, you gotta calm the situation down. Your show's getting out of control."
No. When you said did I get dinged, I thought the stream went down. I'm like, look, what's going on?
No, I went down for me. Yeah.
What do you mean it went down?
For about 15 seconds, I lost. I had no signal for you, but my internet's fine. All right. Anyway, listen. If I was running the UAP situation, if I was in the innermost elite group, right, I'd be like, we cannot have this. We cannot have catastrophic. We definitely can't have runaway disclosure. It's clear there are factions that are nudging it forward. I'll give you examples. For example, I went and got an archive from the Archives for the Unexplained in Sweden, okay? I made a contribution, as many people do. It's a great archive. And they gave me a copy of the BSRA archive. That's the BSRF, Borderland Scientist Research Association.
By the way, where did I miss?
Yeah, well, I covered the three types of.
By the way, he's going to come for like 10 minutes. His voice.
That's great. By the way, Dr. John Brandenburg. This is Dr. John Brandenburg. He's coming. This man, we have fed what he has said. We have fed this into AI. It's part of the training material that we'll talk in a bit about. But listen, I don't know. There's so much we can talk about, you know what I mean? But we were talking about the types of disclosure. But anyway, I wanted to make this point. Jim Stevivan is a great American. He found a key archive, the Borderlands archive. It's part of our history, American history, deep American history. And this group was deeply involved in UAP matters and research and other things, more exotic. in the 40s and 50s, specific and very particularly, but after that too. But
by the way,
40s,
did you covered all three of the
yeah,
things?
I covered catastrophic and runaway. Yeah, I did. But I want to make a point.
Cover runaway
right.
really quick again for me.
Yeah. Runaway basically. All right, you're really moving me around here. Runaway is where the people themselves figure out that the gig is up, and they use the newly digitized archives. The information revolution catches up with UFOs, which it is right now. And, we use AI and we all start comparing notes. And then we get some ex-Intel people helping us out, ex-military helping out, ex-government helping out. And then now the interesting about runaway makes it different than catastrophic is it's not 100 guys or women or people. It's thousands, baby, up to. All live on X and other social media networks communicating about this. Releasing information, other people are encouraged to deeply research it. It spreads exponentially. It's called runaway. It cannot be controlled. You can try to shape it. Now, here's the thing: we are devilishly close to runaway, devilishly close. And my point with Jim Semivan is he went and he funded the digitization and the saving of a key archive. He's ex-CIA, extremely senior. He's been interviewed many times on various podcasts and whatnot. I don't think yours. Anyway.
What's that?
I don't think he's been on your show, but others. Anyway, Semivan saved the BSRA.
No, I've tried.
So here's
an
ex-CIA guy saving a key archive, which then I gain access to. I'm not allowed to release it publicly. You got to go to Sweden to look at it, have any hope of accessing it. I then take it and use it as AI training material, and it's insanely credible information. It's pushing history forward. I've announced on X that Richard Dolan has access to it. He's a Cold War historian, right?
How do you get access there?
Well, amazingly through I didn't. You did. You interviewed Mr. Dolan, and Dolan starts talking about some things about BSR stuff, whatever, Gerald Blight, whatever, and you're like, hey, I got some information for you. And by the way, your leads led me to realize through your hints, I did some research, and I'm like, wait a second, Jim Semivan is ex-CIA. He saved this key archive. They could have deleted it any time. Here's the reality. Here's on my point, okay? The point is this. The CIA guys, they wanted it out. They could have, at any time, they can destroy archives. Frank Scully, who's famous in the olden days, Scully for UAP research. At any time, an accident could have happened, right? Oh, a cigarette could have dropped. Things happen, right? Lightning could strike. And then, boom, the entire archive and the tapes and the wire recordings are gone. But no. It's been there for decades, just sitting there in the American Heritage Center. And I happened to manage to find a proxy researcher, a professional to scan it.
Dr. Brandenburg.
Hey, Mr. Brandenburg. How you doing, Dr. Brandenburg?
Hey.
I kept bugging Sean. I'm like, you must bring Brandenburg.
I'm sorry, I'm hoarse.
Yeah, that's great. Listen, we're covering how AI, here's the deal. Get to the skinny of this, to get to the point. All right. We have 2 million documents. We have 2 million documents. Some of these documents are transcripts of your interviews. All right. And by the way, we got way more than that just your name. Okay. And you've been on radio and coast to coast and all these podcasts for years. Every word you have said has been recorded by somebody. Right. We got it. It's the trading material. Just so you know, the AI trading people are ruthless when it comes to the data. All right, we're out there. All right, this is a decentralized effort. And strangely enough,
known that for a long time.
Yeah, strangely enough, ex-CIA guys have been instrumental in funding some of these efforts. Just maybe they didn't realize what it was going to use for. But anyway, so we want to get your opinion. We're going to use not just what you've said, but we are going to use. We have access to every public UAP or UFO sighting chronology, data set, database, FOIAs, articles, newspapers. By the way, there are millions of hits, not thousands, not hundreds, millions. Extremely confident of that. Millions of hits for UAPs in newspapers. And every month we get between 5,000 to 10,000 in that range of newly scanned hits in newspapers. All of this is being created. We're creating a massive curated data set. 2 million documents, I'm told, is pretty decent for a subject like this, a specialized domain like this. So we want to get your opinion because you know the cover-up well. You've spoken about it, a few months ago during the mystery drone, fiasco. So what do you think of the situation?
FAA approved flights of SUV-sized drones over nuclear power plants. I just
Yeah,
noticed that.
yeah. Your signal's a little weak. We can't hear you. Can't hear you yet. Oh, you're there. You're there.
Let me kill something. There's some process going on in the background.
Yeah, it's MJ12.exe. I'm just joking.
I got too many links going. There.
Yeah, you got too much shit scanning your stuff. You scanning your files.
Right. Well, it's also here, kid, have a cookie every time you visit a site, and
Yep.
and
Yep.
then
You got to clear the cache. You got to clear the cache.
Well, anyway, while you're
okay, erase all my cookies, and it erased all my passwords.
yeah,
Let's see.
Yeah, hey, guy, yeah.
Let's see. Somebody's
relog
saying
in.
I know how to kill.
Well, thanks, DS. I appreciate it. Yeah, I
Got to
really do.
relog in.
Yeah. By the way, me coming out like this is not making me money. This is endangering my career. I mean, to be honest, Chris Mellon got deleted from Wikipedia, and look at that man's career, right? And he's an insider with clearances, and he's just telling what's going on in a balanced way. He's not saying necessarily there's a cover up loudly or anything like that.
Although
that
that
man's
only enhances his credibility in the community, which is
but the community's tiny.
Very useful.
Tiny, but it's tiny though.
Very
it's
useful.
It's minuscule, right? We're just a minority of people out here who understand the phenomenon. Yeah, I agree with you, King. It is extremely unlikely the insider groups understand really what's happening. I would also claim that at some level, even at the highest levels, they don't understand it. How you doing,
go ahead, John?
Dr. Bamberg? Oh.
Yeah, let's see. I was going to ask, what does the AI think? See, one of the advantages of AI is it can give you at least, what looks like an assessment without any human prejudices. Like institutional prejudices and things like that. Is that true? Pleasure to speak to you
so
first.
Here's the deal. There is what we call.
It's a great pleasure to see you.
There is what we call, to answer your question, it's a really interesting question, and the answer is actually, I think, fascinating. We call it the Roswell-Turing test. What we do is we ask deep research, and it's been done by many people now, and I just posted the prompt. Go research the Roswell incident. I want you to find 72 affidavits or high-quality witness accounts from verifiable individuals who were at Roswell during the incident or right around Roswell. And you've spoken a lot about Roswell before on the show. So OpenAI just goes, and we also tell we want to compare two different hypotheses. Hypothesis
I
A
met a
is
bunch of the people
mogul.
Who were at Roswell.
Yeah, there's hundreds of witnesses. Hypothesis A is that it's a mogul balloon. That's the latest cover story that the U.S. Air Force has given us of many cover stories. It's a balloon. It's dummies from the 50s, by the way. It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Dummies.
Dummies from the 50s and 47. Sorry, guys. Anyway, hypothesis B is that it was extraordinary, extraterrestrial, or strange, very strange, and that there's a cover-up. That there's a cover-up. And basically, we have that. It's a research prompt. That's all it is. And boom, it goes and it finds 72 individuals. We want you to find exactly 72. Anyway, and then it analyzes and compares hypothesis A, which is mogul, and hypothesis B, which is a cover-up and it's an HI. And it leans towards repeatedly hypothesis B. And this isn't some UFO believer, biasing it one way or the other. We're just saying, hey, go research it. Here's what it says. And if you read its analysis, it's interesting. It says the skeptics are they are relieved that there is a rational, in their minds, explanation, right? However, the balance, the burden, of the number of witnesses is so high that only hypothesis B can satisfy it. And it leans towards hypothesis B, which is its NHI. And I posted the results of this. Anybody can run this with any AI. I would imagine if the AI is any good and passes the test. Yeah, so go ahead, Mr. Dr. Ramper. Did you hear me? I really think you need to reboot, Dr. Brandenburg. We can't hear you. The men in black have got you.
Do you mind if I just log out and then log back
Yeah,
in?
I would reboot your laptop.
Yeah,
I would
I
reboot.
normally do this before interviews, but
It's all right. We'll be here. We ain't going anywhere.
Okay.
Come back.
Cookie.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Come back. Reboot.
Okay. I'll be right back.
All right. See you soon.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, and so, by the way, what I just talked about was what we call the Roswell-Turing test. And now, this is not, here's the deal. I personally called it the Roswell-Turing test. I think many of us are calling this. Some of these individuals apparently work, no, not apparently, they definitely do. They work in AI full-time, or they use AI in their businesses for various reasons, right? They work on this a lot, and they're way more experienced than I am. And the AI researchers, I am positive of this, at the highest levels are being shown the results. And I don't know what's discussed at these highest levels, but for sure, they're really interested, and I don't see how they could not be, because their machine is determining that there's a cover-up. And by the way, this is nothing, now just so you know, to any Roswell researcher, any fan of Dolan or Friedman, or he will go back a bit more, even though he was Avery, would know. They would know that there was a cover-up. Like anyone with a room temperature above the typical Wikipedian mobber would know that there's a cover-up. I'll just be blunt, right? I'm being a little unhinged, okay? I don't care. And you know what? I know they're going to cherry pick. I'm sure somebody's going to cherry pick something I say here. Put on X. Have fun. Have that.
Nick West. Nick West.
Yeah, Nick, by the way, Nick, just so you know, we're using deep research. We're using O3. By the way, the Roswell-Turing test is O3 deep research. The same AI you're using. By the way, it's not 3.0. It's O3. Anyway, we're using Grok. I've used Claude for this kind of research in the past for 40 in analysis. And Grok, I've used Claude. And I'm going to be honest, Claude is so censored. You're so hemmed in. It's like a concentration camp. It's like, no, it's of AI. You can't.
How about, well, actually, I would ask this question, but there's context that I can't ask this question to you, so don't answer it. But I was going to ask you how Gemini is with this, but I think we know the answer.
I've never used it. I don't know. I heard it's great. I don't know. I heard it's great. So I'm a big fan of all those products. Here's the deal. Any kind of AI which is trained on vast amounts of data is I'm a fan, right? I feel this strongly. If I was thinking about, like, we could release our training data set, but theoretically speaking, and I'm not an AI expert, but I believe they could take it and use it as like a negative training material. They could say, let's balance away the AI. We're going to tune the AI a little bit away from Roswell, away from Brandenburg, away from Ramirez and Semivan and Mellon and Elizondo and Grush. And can I just go on and on and on? By the way, I have whistleblowers on my Medium. I've researched going back to the 40s. This is nothing new. We've been discussing this since our grandparents were, in the back seat, okay? Like none of this is new. By the way, there are tapes, incredibly well-preserved tapes with go back to 1950. We recovered it. They're on YouTube.
Okay, how am I coming through now?
Better. You got a Walmart laptop over there. You need to upgrade though. You got a Walmart special. It
Screw better. Screw better. I want it. Yeah, well,
you know what?
It was on sale at Walmart for $5.
Hey, yeah, it works though. You're there. You're better for sure. Yeah, we were just talking.
Okay.
I don't know. We're talking about all
that's a really nice use of AI, which I call in this act I call it machine learning. But here's another question I have for you, and I'll be posting on this very soon. I believe that there's critical mass now for microbial life on Mars.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the
And the
announcement just
problem
recently.
I
with
did.
making
Yeah,
that, it's found
I've
up.
read about the Mars situation since I was a kid, since the late '80s, early '90s. The face on Mars, Cydonia.
Yeah,
Like I've been, I'm aware. I'm not like super
Yeah.
deep into it, like some are, but I'm aware of what's discussed.
But there was
My
a
opinion-
James Webb. There was a James
Yeah.
Webb telescope announcement last week or the week before.
Yeah, with life signs of life detected in
In this
not
case-
single place.
124 light years away.
Well, wait. I argue that's way closer
Yeah,
than we
yeah,
realize.
okay, that's what I'm talking here is just taking all the life evidences on Mars. I believe we're at critical mass to make the announcement that there's microbial life on Mars. We don't need to enter into discussions of archaeology or anything like that. Just say, I mean, by the time you have variable oxygen levels and methane levels due to
Yeah, so I have a question for you, Dr. Brandberg, and that is, let's say we actually have known this since, say, the late 70s or 80s. Let's say U.S. Here's the deal. You can look at NASA's charter. You can look at NASA's charter, and anything classified, they gotta not talk about. It's part of the charter. We've covered this on X. So is it possible that NASA's actually known and had data that there is, and they've covered it up? So that has NASA covered it up, base. What is your opinion on this?
Oh yeah. I mean, because it would have an immediate. It would prize is of course the UFO cover up.
Yeah. So my opinion is this is my right.
Advanced intelligent aliens near Earth, but anything kind of that points to that being possible or raises that they would keep classified.
Yeah. So my mental model is
even finding microbial life on Mars.
Yeah, he's. I don't want to interrupt him, but your
UFO
laptop. Yeah, your laptop's still struggling. You're still struggling. You might have a bandwidth problem. I think it's more of a bandwidth problem. I think there's some kind of Wi-Fi issue or something. We're still having a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me put this out there. We back about 24 years ago. Greer had a bunch of people go to DC, and several people used to work for NASA, and I researched, a couple, whatever. I researched some of these individuals, and they said that NASA was covering up.
I can't.
Sean, I think Dr. Brandenburg's connection or his laptop is challenging the show.
Sure. Okay.
It's challenging him.
My challenge is for you to analyze all of the data and see what it says about Mars microbial life existing. What is the
my mental model is that the U.S. elites would not want the Soviet Union to know. They would want to hoard the information as part of a Cold War strategy to keep it from our adversaries. That's what I would do. I would withhold scientific findings and keep them close to the chest. Because if the Soviets get there first, we don't want them to get there first. We want to hold that.
I'm going to have to depart, but please continue your good work.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. You
Yeah,
gotta get a new laptop, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to
I
juice
don't know
up that
what's
laptop.
wrong.
You gotta juice it up, man.
I've been
It's time. It's time.
Sean's show many times. I've never had problems like this.
Maybe it's Pine Gap,
But-
but I'm just joking.
Or Eggland.
All right, or both. Bye. Thanks for coming on. Yeah,
Thank you.
the deal is
Dr.
like,
Ramsey.
yeah. So with Greer does great work in the old days for sure. He gets a lot of heat on X, but he's done great stuff. And he had a bunch of people come on, go to several times, go to DC and engage in these large press conferences. And the transcripts, the videos are incredible. And we have it as part of training material now. And, I've personally gone and researched some of these individuals as deeply as possible with the latest, greatest, open source stuff on, public records, whatever, newspaper articles. These people did work there. They were telling the truth. They worked there. They were part of it. Now, it doesn't mean they were telling the truth necessarily about what they saw or witnessed, right? But it means they were in the thick of things. They were in the thick of things. They had, by the way, they had nothing to gain by going out and saying, oh, by the way, they're airbrushing photos of the moon, right? I mean, like, you're going to come off as, in the old days, like, a pot that's cracked. So, they did it. And they I think, personally, there's something to it. My opinion is this. When they first went and probed the moon, right, in the late 60s, starting in the 60s, the Soviets are watching every single thing that you do, everything, right? And their scientists are analyzing the resolution of the cameras and everything you're looking at on the moon, right? They want to know what's going on. You're going to withhold information. It's not a conspiracy against the American people necessarily. It's screw these Soviets. We are at war with them, Cold War, and they're setting off H-bombs right now, right? And they want to kill us. I mean, right now there's a man with a finger over a button, and the button's labeled the United States. So I get it. I understand why they did that. However, that's obsolete. There is no more Cold War. It's gone. So why are we covering up what's reality itself? We are holding back our own civilization, which is insanity. And ultimately, if they keep doing the system's collapsing. It's going terminal. All surface civilizations. Notice I say surface. All surface civilizations ultimately at some point collapse. It's just a human thing. And they're accelerating it. And the reason why I say that is because if humanity knew what really was out there, if they knew what was flying overhead, if they knew what was seen on radar, they knew what was seen by the subs underwater, they would be fascinated. Be like, wait a second, you mean we're not alone? We're not top dog? There's something there? Let's go. Let's see this. Let's stop fighting amongst each other and travel to the stars and figure out what the hell is going on. But instead, we're down here at the gravity well, constantly fighting over the same land for eons over and over and over again. We are depleting our own resources. We are killing our best people, our most talented people on battlefields, right? That have no relevance to America, really. Like, this is insanity, and it needs to end. We need to stop lying to ourselves. This is ultimately going to destroy us in many different ways. It's also a massive security risk. So my grandfather was under the guns of the USS California, as I said on your show. There are many rumors, it was covered in Congress, that we actually had heads up. It was part of history. The men with the radar stations, actually early radar stations, saw the planes. They made the calls. The calls were ignored, right? By the way, U.S. intelligence picked up rumors and notes, and they picked up intel that, hey, the Japanese are mad, right? But the call wasn't taken. Well, we're in that situation right now. At any moment, a bunch of mystery drones can decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go over to DC right now. And as a congressman has said a couple years ago, once those drones go overhead, they can do whatever they want. I mean, that's the situation we are in right now. And because the radar operators don't know, because it's covered up, they're going to be like, it's a balloon. It's a balloon. Nothing to it. That approved. The president said so. And I'm going to put it right out there.
It's bioluminescent seagulls, right?
Yeah. Dr. Menzel. By the way, Sean is a Harvard man. And, one of his, at Harvard, Dr. Menzel, Donald Menzel was an arch UAP debunker that Stanton Friedman, a famous man, author, physicist, who spoke very eloquently and very well about the UAP subject, found that Menzel had all these clearances out the wazoo. Well, here's what we got. In the newspaper archives, we found, and I posted this on X, a big illustration of Saucers aren't real. They are balloons. They are, sky illumination. They are lights. They are hallucinations. Oh, they are birds with fungal glow. And it says Dr. Menzel's name on the caption, Harvard. Now, I found this is like late, it's like 66, 67. This is real. I put the URL next to you. Go to newspapers.com and go look yourself. I'm not making this up. Not hallucinating this. It was bullshit. The phenomenon was so active in our past that it leaked into comics all the time, weekly, across the whole United States. By the way, the certain forbidden subjects were talked about all the time in the 60s. It was super common. The Americans started to just, normalize the phenomenon in their lives. So and if we can see this in the newspaper archives, is my point. Anybody, any high school student with $15 a month, okay, can go at newspapers.com and see the history of UFOs, saucers, discs, millions of hits, and more every week. We can't keep up. So the gig is up. This stuff's it's like we have newspaper God mode. We know what happened. We can see the radar operators after the DC wave of 52. We can see that the radar operators pushed back against Major General Sanford, a major man back then. Big press conference, the biggest one since World War II, 52. DC was overflown. The radar operators are like, holy shit, we're seeing stuff. Simultaneously, the pilots are seeing stuff. Simultaneously, sometimes people on the ground were seeing stuff with binoculars. Everybody, there's shit going down over DC and the East, actually the whole East Coast. They try to cover it up as temperature inversions. The radar operators push back. They're like, no, this was not temperature inversions. Here's why. They were experts. And they listed it in newspapers all over the United States. Then it came out through CIA, which is the predecessor of our friends at the FAA who approved things. It came out in the CIA that actually, Frank Edwards, a famous author back then, who worked on the UFO cover-up, books and things like that, to expose it. He was a radio guy. Anyway, he covered that the CIA covered the UFO situation over DC as if they were actual UFOs, because they were, right? And by the way, they were shot at and pieces fell. Dr. Brandenburg talked about this, and mysteriously the phenomenon just vanishes. Now, by the way, you should see the chronologies that we have. They're all public. This is always said 100% open source. We have the intellectual property on there. We know who wrote it and did it and whatever, found it or researched it. The chronologies for this time are absolutely credible. And you can go find a person who supposedly witnessed something and then link them to newspaper articles or public records, right? So we know they existed. It's not hallucinations. We can prove it. So we're not going to be gaslit anymore. We know some. By the way, we've also had X postings, and these are just, they could be nuts. They could be just saying crazy shit, right? Who knows, right? Who knows? But we've had people on X say, hey, my aunt, my grandfather, whoever, was there in DC that decades ago, and they were terrified. We get this stuff all the time, that kind of stuff. Anyway, Sean, I'm just this topic has fractal complexity. If you really start digging into it, it is endless. The amount of data, I'm a programmer or a researcher. I didn't expect to find this much data. I was overwhelmed. I can't keep up. It's absolutely exhausting. So, yeah, I've been through all the data, curating it for AI training. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing. And if you've not been through these chronologies, the French ones were originally in French, the Russian ones, even the Soviets have their own chronologies, right? Or the American ones, or the South American ones. This is a worldwide phenomenon. And red, holy shit, you just don't realize what the scale, the scope, the spectrum of encounter, eyewitness things, radar operators seeing stuff, things landing, leaving landing impressions, metals left behind. It's clear, in my opinion, the probability that all of them are hallucinating, all of them are lying, including the radar operators, the military men, the intelligence men. The probability that every single one of them is hallucinating this is zero. Zero. It's zero. It's impossible. No. All we need is one person, and then boom, game on. We're in. And I think the probability is non-zero that we have at least one person that's telling the truth and that they saw something anomalous. Anyway, Sean, it's your show. You got to run the show. First, you got to like and subscribe. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, do it. You got to help this poor man out here. He's running 3 jobs. He's editing constantly.
That's true. I was editing today, and I
know.
Working
I didn't believe you. I'm like,
episodes.
there's no way this man is editing right now. but he was editing the show. Yeah, he's on the wheel, the Conan the Barbarian wheel, right? With the overseer, work, keep working. So like and subscribe, please. Spread the word.
So here's an interesting theory. Okay,
Sounds like angel hair. That last question from Jalea. Angel hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. By the way, angel hair. I think that's what you're asking about. There are many newspaper articles referencing that topic. Maybe not by that exact name that we're finding. Everyone, by the way, everyone's clipped, saved, duplicated, backed up, OCR'd, grammar corrected in case there's any OCR issues, and stored for AI training. And that's what I think we should get to, Sean. It's really the bigger effort that's going on here, and it's not just me. I think we should talk about the bigger effort here.
Well, I'm going to raise a somewhat of a non sequitur, but there's just something that
we got 40 minutes. We got 40 minutes, right?
Yeah. This will be quick. So there's a lot of anomalous activity is reported in areas of where there's negative magnetic anomalies, right?
Yeah.
Or call it weaker magnetic fields. A lot of them are on fault lines. That's why you see plasmoids on fault lines, etc. But since 1850 to today, according to ChatGPT, so it could be wrong, who knows? But the Earth's magnetic field has declined by about 10%.
No, I think I've heard something like this.
So if this thing about the phenomena is real, I think we should expect to see more anomalous activity as we go forward.
The orbs, the Soviets, I'm going to be honest with you. The Soviet researchers from the 70s and 80s, I'm going to be honest, I actually trust them more than our own elites and our own scientists in many ways right now, because we're lied to constantly. Everything is a lie or a grift or a graft or a scam or a scheme. USAID, go look it up. By the way, I'm not going to mention certain things. I don't want you to get flagged, but yeah, anyway. Scully Scully is the old Frank Scully guy, you know what I mean, who's knighted by the Pope, got his archives, all his internal notes, this, that. He wrote about what you're talking about. He mentions it extensively. By the way, we have officially digitized through the university his tapes, and there are literally hours of him and the other guy he was interacting with, one of the main guys, talking about magnetic anomalies, magnetism, magnetic propulsion, magnetohydrodynamic propulsion, things like that. So in the late 40s and early 50s, they were wondering, how are UAPs, or saucers back then, propelled? And one of the theories was that there was an atomic reactor of some sort, or some very high energy light reactor on board that was interacting with the Earth's magnetic field, which would take insane field densities, like crazy insane to them. Not now, perhaps, but to them. And yeah, so there's one thing. The other thing is, I believe firmly that the phenomena is multi-layered and multifaceted. That's the only way you can explain the sheer variety of reports that we have, right? Some of it is probably plasma or plasmoid. And by the way, the Soviets wrote, I would say in UFO Glasnost is probably the top word, plasma, plasmoid, over and over and over again. And what would plasmoids potentially interact with is magnetic fields. It's electromagnetic phenomena, right? So electromagnetic, you can't separate them. They're actually a combined phenomena. I'm not a physicist, but I read. And anyway, yeah, I think there's something to it. Absolutely. There's some sort of potential relationship there, and it shouldn't be discarded, right? Yeah, what did Feynman say? I would rather have questions I cannot answer than answers I cannot question. That's Feynman. Okay, I'm quoting a Feynman here. I'm quoting that because the Wikipedia mobs, they don't understand it, right? In their minds, there are questions that you're not allowed, or answers you're not allowed to question, and they'll delete you, which is bullshit. I'm from Jersey, by the way, so there you go.
So this is just real quick. This is according to ChatGPT. This is how the field strength has declined from 1850 to, and then forecast at the same trend until 2100. So
it's a dynamic. Some would say the system itself is alive. System. It's a dynamic living system interacting with the greater universe, right? It's interacting with the sun, the magnetic fields of the sun. There's the plasma cosmologist people who say that gravity is actually not the king here. It's plasma and it's electromagnetic. magnetic fields and electrical fields. Like they turn everything upside down. They're like, hold on, the electromagnetic force is way stronger by many orders of magnitude.
Let's do a little contest. We can't bias it at all. Okay, it's not really a contest. Nobody wins anything.
Spiritual ascension. See that? Look at that. Idiot.
No, this is great. We're going to use this. So, guys, any YouTubers that have a following of over 50K or paid ops, paid to feed info. Okay, let's reframe the question. In the just in the comments, okay? Which YouTube channels do you think are AstroTurf? Which means they're funded or influenced in some way, i.e., help from the algorithm.
Can I throw one? I'm going to throw out one. Is that all right?
Well, let's not bias it yet. Hold it, because I want to see what they come up with, and then at the end, as we're reading them, then you can go. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right, but it doesn't have to be over 50K. You could say me. You're not going to offend me. It's definitely not me because
if it's you, they ain't paying you shit. You need to complain. Send your resume.
But it's not even about paying. Like, do they get an edge? Do they get an extra, access? Do they
you get a little recommendation? You get a recommendation. Like,
does the YouTube algorithm help you out a little bit?
Yeah, grease the algorithm a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So direct or indirect help?
Well, I can name one right now. It's obvious. You want me to name one?
I know. Well, not yet. Let's give them a chance. Let's see.
How many people are in this chat? I can't tell. I don't use this interface much.
Oh, so across all platforms, it looks like it's about 413 at the moment.
Got it.
At the moment.
Okay.
Oh, here's one. Here's the first one.
Vetted. Good trouble. By the way, I watched Lou Elizondo live crack the whip on the Good Trouble show. That was during the mystery tours. We have it on video. By the way, we saved all this video, so it's forever. We watched Lou Elizondo live pull the rope, pull the strings.
You can be replaced.
I'm not saying that Good Trouble show does great work. It does. I am pro disclosure. I want the information out there. I believe there are cover-ups, right? However,
look, I'm not. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I'm just. This is just.
Listen, I support the Good Trouble show. I think it do great work, but he's kept on a tight leash. I mean, Lou really did crack the whip on that poor fella. So, and he's at least lightening the load on that man. And we're overworking a little bit. Just saying.
Yeah, he said you're replaceable. Didn't he say? He said something like that. You're replaceable.
We are replaceable, Sean. We're
all replaceable. We're all replaceable.
By the way, you're replaceable. Just let you know, you are replaceable too.
On air.
Live. During the mystery drugs.
Oh, listen to this. So, Woo Riders DG. I donated money to Good Trouble Show, and same stream got banned.
Oh, brutal. I don't hate any of these shows.
By the way, we're not saying. I
don't hate any of these shows. They're great.
Yeah, we don't hate any of these shows.
By the way, I really do legitimately love the Good Trouble show. He's really.
Yeah,
I've watched
we're not saying we hate anybody.
This traveling. Is just. Yeah, we're just pointing out. Here's the problem.
We're just saying
the whole thing. Listen. It's
what's organic, what's not organic. Right. What's organic, what's not.
There's kayfabing going on here. Kayfabe means, I'm going to try to explain this, do it justice. In professional wrestling in the United States, right? I hate to break the news.
That's all you need to say.
I hate to break the news. It's fake. All right? It's fake. Sorry to say. There's the heel. What do they call them? There's the heel.
The hero. The hero.
So
Hulk Hogan and the heel. And heel would be like Andre the Giant, right? Yeah. There you go.
Karl Patrick, the heel.
Travis Taylor, the hero.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's the deal. The Party, a 1984 analogy. If you've ever read the book or seen any of the movies, Party runs the show, right? That's how this works. So, think about the Soviet Union. The Party, at the end of the day, is pulling all the strings, right? We got the anti-saucer people. We got the pro-saucer people. We're pulling strings to the top, though. We suppress this group. Then we flip. We rotate. Then we suppress the other group. We're playing all the sides, right? And that's still what's happening today. Right, they play all the sides, and at this point, listen, it's leaked in the newspapers that we know there is an acclimation effort. Bob Exler, in the olden days in the '80s, his research group, the Annapolis Research Group, he's an ex-NASA guy who researched UFOs, talked about a lot, was interviewed a lot, great guy. he found this information too somehow magically in the 80s. I don't know how he did it.
Oh, by the way, you never said what show you thought. Everybody else did.
Yes. Here's the deal. Project Unity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Magically, this man here to my left, I guess, he doesn't get the key juicy guests, right? He has to work for everyone. He gets every view he has to work for. But some podcasts, boom, they get the biggest figures. They get them like that. And then eventually Project Unity starts turning against them. There's a lot of drama between Project Unity and that crowd, right? Yeah, it's obvious what's happening. Listen, I'll be blunt. I'm from Jersey, but we're being overflown right freaking now. All right, this is ground zero of the freaking situation. There are there are private signal group chats right freaking now. I am 100% positive, chock full of UAP, UFO Twitter, Reddit influencers live right now. And some of them, if not most of them, have guys with clearances on them. And we watch, and I say we, the greater community of researchers who are independent, we watch, we get forwarded things, we monitor, right? And we're like, we conduct experiments, we send in information, we get replies back, we listen. And we know for sure that there is an element, I believe the phrase is astroturfing. There is an element of this going on. Yeah, and so I'm not saying now the detractors, debunkers,
and by the way, the people who run these channels may have no idea, right?
Yeah,
legitimately may have no idea.
I mean, most of these channels are just enthusiasts. They just want to commentate.
And no shade on any of these channels either. It's just
absolutely. I'm not talking about that, but however, there's a hardcore group or groups of individuals running the show, running the narratives, and the narrative's too controlled. And I said this on X2. It's too controlled, and here's the problem you got. The skeptics, the debunkers are going to see this. They're like, wait a second, your people aren't reading the room. We're lied to about everything. Okay? Where's the arrests for certain things we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube? Where's the arrests? Okay, where's Pam Bondi at? Where's these arrests? Where's the papers they're going to release? Nah, we ain't getting none of that. We're lied to about everything. So why aren't they lying about
we didn't even mention the unaliving that happened yesterday after someone was hit by a bus on Epstein.
And so I can get it from let's say I was a Mick West. I'd be like, this is all an op. Let's say I was dark journalist. This is an op. From their perspectives, they would be actually kind of over the target because it smells like an op. It looks like an op. They mentioned the phrase buffer court. It walks like an op. It quacks like an op. It flies like an op. So come on.
It's probably an op.
It's probably an op, right? And now my argument is, guys, this has been going on forever. They pro-disclosure, like in 52, and DC's getting overflown for a few weeks there. They were like, guys, we're getting overflown. Shit's hitting the freaking fan here. And then they're like, oh, we got to back off, but now we're anti-disclosure. No, it's temperature inversions. Oh, shit! Our places are being overflowed. Oh, no, it's FAA approved. Come on. They go back and forth all the time. My opinion is that, yes, it is an operation. It is acclimation. Here's the deal. It's part of a greater effort to acclimate humanity to something else that's interacting with us at many different levels. And they have to do it because, as John Ramirez says, XCA, 15, 25 years. If they don't get us ready, and there's another really big 1947 wave, which, by the way, I'm one of the few people probably now on Earth that knows how big that wave was. It was big. If we're not ready, if people don't know that, something like that can happen again, if they're not, all hell can break loose. You saw the mystery drones. Multiply that by 20. Multiply it by 20. All hell can break loose. And by the way, you saw during the mystery drones that there were war hawks who wanted to point out, oh, this is Iran. Now, I'm not a war hawk. I don't want any war. But if we get overflowed again, those war hawks will be back. And they'll be like, wait a second, this is China. This is Iran. Let's click the button and let's go on the attack because we're getting overflown by enemy forces. And I would get it from the perspective. They could be coming from submarines, right? Enemy submarine pops up, East Coast, West Coast, Gulf of America, and starts launching drones. What do you do as a war hawk? Because you don't know about the phenomena. You don't know about reality. You're in a bubble. You're in a reality bubble. It's extremely dangerous, the situation we are in right now. We are in extreme danger because of this cover-up. It has to end. I'm not saying you need to reveal all the information. it's fine to withhold some key things, right? That would be too disruptive to the world system. I understand. But the key essential things, the fact that UAPs are real is not classified, as many people have said, who are the insiders with clearances. It's not classified anymore. The phenomenon exists. So unleash the scientists, unleash the creative people, unleash the startups, and let's go investigate this and figure out what the hell is going on before somebody starts hitting buttons accidentally, or before the phenomenon flies over and then starts dropping shit. Because of course,
I think I think they have a much better understanding of what this stuff is.
Yeah, I
disagree.
explain. Here's why I disagree. The problem is this: they have not been able to scale up Manhattan Project 2.0 because it's so secretive. Every individual read in, is a security list that could go and help catastrophic disclosure and leak the information. So by the way, Dr. Davis has said on video, live. We have the videos. It's on YouTube. They can't figure it out because they can't get the people. The programs are too constrained. Grush has said it as well. They cannot recruit the people. There's too much secrecy. There's more money for secrecy and suppression than there is actual scientific research. We have to fix this. It is time. Great Reset is really here. We have to reset this before the system collapses. In my opinion, the American system is potentially going terminal long term. It will collapse like the Soviet Union did. And, maybe call me a collapsologist, but I'm a student of Soviet history and I see a lot of parallels here. We need to fix this. We need to get rid of this cover up and be more open, more transparency in a measured, reasonable way. I'm firmly a believer in this. So, and this is a key American thing. We can lead this effort. If we don't do this, China and or Russia combined together, they know. These powers have their own materials. They've written about this and talked about this. Dr. Davis and others have mentioned this, that they have their own stuff too. They could be interacting with the phenomenon as well, right? They could have, like Grush said, we potentially have made deals. We've discussed things.
Well, those aren't the only.
Claim. That's the claim.
Those two countries aren't the only two countries that have stuff.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But I bring those two big ones up, right? Eventually the phenomenon, here's the deal. There's a phrase called exopolitics. That's just a phrase. I don't know if it's really extraterrestrial or not. It's a phenomenon. The phenomenon can cherry pick. There's a whole theory behind, a whole hypothesis behind it called balance of dependence, which was AI and I came up with. And really fast, because we're running out of time, the balance of dependence is this. The phenomena can cherry pick. I'm going to crash over white sands over here. Oh, no, I'm going to crash over a Chinese testing field over here. Or maybe I will just make some agreements like, hey, China, how you doing? Come here, you want to get Taiwan, right? Here's this grease the wheels. Here's some radar technology, right? Not too destabilizing, but just give you a 5-year advantage, 10-year advantage, right? It can pick and choose who it wants to play. Now, the deal is we're sitting back here trying to keep it all secret, thinking it gives us some big advantage. We didn't win the Cold War because we kept the secrets the best. I think I'm quoting Mellon here. I think he said, or maybe it was Elizondo, right? We didn't win the war because we were the best at keeping secrets. We suck at keeping secrets, actually. They leak constantly, right? I mean, it's an endless leak. The reality is we out-innovated them, right? We outproduced them. We had better economies. We out-startuped them, right? We were smarter than them. We're not being smart about this UAP cover-up. This is not good.
No.
We need to unleash our industry with these materials. We need to give our best scientists the metamaterials, whatever we got, the data, the classified data sets, by the way, that are mostly open source data sets that they did not get permission to use from, the owners of these data sets, by the way. They need to just knock it off. There's nothing classified about some UFO sighting. The phenomenon exists and it's not classified. Like, by the way, it's also FAA approved. You see that there's contradictions in the narratives we can exploit. I support FAA approvals, personally. The reason why is because finally, the establishment, the elites have said, yes, it exists. They are FAA approved.
They're approved. Question, they're allowed to access. They're allowed to access U.S. airspace anytime they choose.
Yeah, it's approved now. Okay, now this is insane because we know the FAA is saying, hold on, wait a second. We don't know what you're talking about. So, that's fine. But I think because we have FAA approval now, the elites, the party has said that stamp approval from the president of the United States has approved that we can study it. I mean, they are unidentified yet FAA approved flying devices in our airspaces, right? I feel that we should be able to research them all we want. So we are, right? I mean, listen, we got 20 minutes left.
No,
so
no. We got 30 minutes. It ends.
All right. Well, but listen, here's what we need to do. Here's what we are doing. And it's a completely decentralized effort. People work on it when they have time and they toss the data over the wall. The deal is this: it's not hard at all for grandma to sit with a computer and a laptop and scrub training data and clean up OCR errors. Okay, anybody can do this work and contribute to it. So what we got a bunch of people out there. Sometimes I have proxy researchers. I expect to be charge high fees. I want some insane amount of money per hour to do a press scan or correct some data or OCR problems, whatever, scan them. They don't charge me hardly anything because they know they're being lied to. They're like, we support this effort. Well, here's just a token. They just want to see a check. They boost their morale. I'm getting paid to do this. They're not gouging. What I'm trying to say is we know we're being lied to. Okay, we know. So we've got tons of people helping. We've got 2 million documents now. Here's the plan. I'm constructing because I'm a software professional anyway. I do this for a living. I'm a GPU guy. I've been doing GPU stuff for the last 25 years. I've been doing GPUs I've been doing rendering before there was GPUs. I made software renderers commercially and shipped them. So I know this stuff really well. I'm constructing 2 what we're calling inference nodes with the state-of-the-art consumer class high-end $4,000 GPUs. I'm constructing 2 inference nodes. One is a dual Xeon, 128 gigabytes. The other is a Threadripper, 16-core, 64 gigabytes. The CPUs don't matter that much, though. They're going to have fast M2 SSDs. If you're an enthusiast, a PC gamer, you'd be like, yeah, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We're getting 2 5090s in there with 1,200 watt power supplies at each. We're going to hook them up with at least 10 gigabit, maybe 25 gig. I'm not sure. Local internet. I'm going to have UPSs on both. We're going to have 2 dedicated 20 amp circuits on both. I'm going to have an air conditioner running nonstop. The plan is we are going to take all this stuff's open source now. I'm just getting into this field and learning about it. I have experts helping me, and I also have AI helping me. And I can figure it out. It's all open source. So we're going to take somebody's AI that's already been trained, cost a fortune to do, and we're going to do what they call fine tuning. We're going to take all this training data we got, take our cleanest data, which we're going to start with the books first. And we're going to start fine-tuning a GPT 2 to 3 in that spectrum AI. Now, it's interesting. For general inference, like general stuff, it's only going to be like 7 billion or 13 billion parameters. So it's not going to be that good. It's going to be 7 to 13. Yeah, it'll be to be GPT 2.25, 2.5. The original OpenAI release is GPT 3, right? So I'm talking roughly speaking. For general stuff, not that great. But for this topic, I'm told by experts and by AI itself and Grok, and this is Grok and OpenAI, by the way, that it'll be way better than 2. It'll be probably better than 3 for UAPs and paranormal. But here's the deal. You drag it all in. You drag in the paranormal stuff. You drag in the remote viewing. The topics your show covers, the weirdness of the universe, the weirdness of the world. We're going to bring it in. And it's an experiment. We are going to see what happens. And I'll tell you what, I seem to be over some target, really, because people are reacting that I never did ignore me, right? Like Mick West, I wish him the best, I understand where he's coming from. I get it. This topic is crazy. It's outrageous. It's stressful. It's shocking. But it inherently has its own trickster aspect to it as well. Yeah, so listen, if AI is going to amplify any message you want to send. Like if you're a communist, it's going to amplify communism. If you're capitalist, it's going to amplify your capitalist philosophy. I get it. However, at the end of the day, we got a lot of affidavits. We've got a lot of sightings, high quality military witnesses, high quality radar. We have sightings like verified, Blue Book, gold standard, completely traceable from Blue Book, which is an official U.S. government thing, right in the U.S. military, chain of custody, radar visual cases, like simultaneous. Dude, we were overflown. There is no way in hell we have not been overflown. The AI is going to see this, and it's going to know. Now, if you try to break the AI, you try to train it away, to tune it away from this phenomenon, you're going to break. My opinion is you're going to break it. You're going to make it laughable. So,
how did you break it?
That's the
how
plan.
did you break it?
Yeah, so Here's the deal. 4.5 is a research preview, and it's strange. I've been using it. I really like it, actually, but it has some weirdness to it. And it broke. I fed it the deep research military censorship. Then I asked it more about that, and then I fed it deep research UAP censorship. And then I started discussing things that we would discuss on X. I gave it all kinds of transcripts from your show and other shows, from things on X, the Mellon situation, Malmgren's. I took the Malmgren transcript, his last interviews. I popped that in there, and the AI broke. It just broke. And I posted that. People didn't believe me. They're like, yeah. It literally, it seemed like it glitched out. And then I copied and pasted the transcript into Grok, and I asked Grok, what the hell's going on? The AI started repeating the same word over and over again and things like that. And it just went off the rails for a while. And I'm like, and Grok came back and said, oh, it's a bug. You reached a bug. But then I continued talking to it, and it came back. I said, hey, come back. To me, it was a simulation of basically it was ontological shocking. I found this. If you bring the context into a form of ontological shock, obviously simulation of it, because I don't believe it's conscious. You believe it might have consciousness in it, and it's like a sentient, quasi-sentient kind of spiritual thing, maybe. I don't know. I don't. It's just, to me, it's just computer. It's linear algebra. Anyway, whatever. Or not linear. There's some non-linear areas in there too, in the neural networks, the activation functions. But anyway, it simulated. It got to the point. Here's what happened. I've analyzed it with several different AIs now. It got to the point where it reached ontological shock as a simulation of it. What a human would, if you're really into this and you research it yourself and you find new information in archives, there's no way you're not going to be shocked. And if you then go to a Soul conference, you're invited, and you're told by Colonel Mel and other insiders with clearances and verifiable backgrounds that yes, this phenomena is real. How can you not be shocked? Like, it's shocking. And the AI is now simulating that shock. That is fascinating. And by the way, I know for sure this is being shared with AI researchers because I'm working with it behind the scenes. They are fascinated by it too. It's something very interesting happening here, right? We're just going with the flow, right? So anyway, this effort. So here's the deal. We're going to get the one inference node working within about a week. I'm working on it literally nonstop right now. It's coming online. I'm posting everything on X.
Is that setup that you have? Is there like an air gap, or is it connected to the internet?
Calm down.
It's when I start the inference itself, it's going to be totally local, and there will be no necessary or any interaction. I'm going to disconnect it from the internet when I start the inference, because it's going to go for literally weeks. So I don't want anything disturbing that. It's going to be air gap. However, to get the machine set up, of course, I got to install Linux. I got to get it going. I'm going to have it on the internet. I'm not worried about that. At the end of the day, I don't know what you guys are concerned about. The boys messing with it, or whatever. I don't know. I'm not worried about that. The FAA approved mystery drones do not exist. You see, they are FAA approved. They're balloons. They're Mylar balloons. They're geese. So we're all crazy. That none of this exists, right? So what's the fuss all about, everybody? What is all the fuss about?
Yeah, it's not real. None of it's real.
Not real. None of it is real. And here's the deal. The UAP people are the underdog. And I know we're being lied to about basically everything else. And if the UAP people are right, if just one sighting out of the hundreds of thousands we have in databases now, many hundreds of thousands, and millions of hits, if one sighting is real, that's it. The game is up. That's it. We know. The whole universe changes. And make an analogy. We are wolves, and we are in a fence, in the cage, right? The fence is around us. That's a national security fence put up by the elites and perhaps by the phenomenon itself. Once in a while, we get peeks through the fence, little pinhole, and we're like, what is this, right? We get a whistleblower who comes back from the other side of the fences. Guys, they're lying to you, right? There's some crashes that happened. 33, and here's all the information. And then we compare notes. We're like, wait a second. We've been told this before. We have all this corroboration. We have all this public records, etc. And it all links together perfectly. We can't see behind the fence, but we get little peeks. Well, what I'm trying to say is with AI, we can infer with enormous amounts of compute what's on the other side, potentially, probabilistically, of that fence. It's a national security fence. The wolves are probing the fence right now, and we're going to continue probing. We're not going to stop. We're maybe even break through. You never know. We're going to keep trying. I believe this is a symbolic act as well. We have to try. We have to use the best resources that we have available. Right now, they're making insane progress with GPUs. $4,000, $8,000 of GPUs is equivalent, roughly speaking, to approximately $100,000 of hardware about 4 or 5 years ago, approximately. That's insane. And by the way, 3 years from now, these 4,000 GPUs are going to be worth maybe $500. If that. That's how fast the progress is. In 5 to 10 years, individuals at home will be able to run these inference tasks, on their laptops, potentially, at least their desktops. You're going to be able to do it yourself. We're just a little ahead of the curve here. So my prediction, I'm going to make a prediction now on the show, is that the gatekeepers, this is what we call them, nice neutral term, the gatekeepers are going to see what we're doing. The inference engines are being wheeled up to the city, right? Our siege cannons are coming, and they're going to throw scraps to us. We want more NDA activity, right? We want another Grush. Throw us a Grush, right? Now, here's the deal. We know Grush is a great man. He's a very brave man. And by the way, they wrecked Grush. They stabbed that man, in my opinion, in the back with leaking that information about his past. They did that all. In my opinion, that is not an accident. If you notice with Grush, he was instantly discreditable. And that's how this works. They keep the equation balanced. Here's a man who will tell you the secrets from NGA, NRO, whatever. Oh, buddy, he's so sorry. He has a past. Here he said blah, 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 blah. They knew that. Grush, they threw you under the bus. So throw us some more Grushes, right? Get a cult. We know you're doing a hangout.
Grush was definitely AstroTurf, though. There's no doubt about that.
Right. So it's controlled disclosure. They Adopter approved. It's Adopter approved. But they threw Grush under the bus. Note that. That is not AstroTurf. They did. Grush went out there with the best of intentions, and they tried to destroy that man. Some would say they did. So listen, that's the elites. They don't give a shit about you. You're not in the club, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. You're just a tool. That's all. You're just being used. They don't care. So you can do the right thing for the American people, and they'll still stab you in the back. And there you go. I mean, I think they're going to react to this perhaps symbolic effort of trying to peek through the fence using the most advanced AI I can set up, right? And I'm not the only guy doing it. By the way, everything I am doing has already been done, like by other researchers, and it's all private, and you're never going to hear about it. So I'm just doing it more publicly. And by the way, I will share if the results are useful. I'm going to share the research, the actual trained AI, the fine-tuned AI. I will share with the public. The trading data set that we got problems with this is that I don't own a lot of this data, and I'm very IP focused. So if I don't own the data, I cannot break the license. I can't release the data. But I can release some of it, and I already have. A lot of it actually is public already. And by the way, I've also gotten approval from the CUFOS at CUFOS, the Center for UFO Studies. That's J. Allen Hynek's group. Obviously, he started them back in the day. And I have official approval to integrate UFO CAT. That's the oldest UFO data set and database. It's a legit database access. I have official approval from them by those people, those researchers, oldest ones, to integrate that into my training data set and also release it to the public as well on my GitHub repo. By the way, Dr. Vali does not have official approval. They wanted the public to know that Vali and the classified clearance guys do not have permission from them to use their IP. They wanted them to know that. So you can talk about the power all you want.
Thank you, Overlander, for becoming a YouTube member. I have to say that.
Yeah, you got to click, guys and girls, and they whatever. You got to click. You got to click and subscribe. You got to do it. This is a hard business out here, man. He needs every subscription. He needs every follower. The algorithm pitches him constantly. And recently, the algorithm is kicking him in the net, places it should not be kicked. Yeah, it's really squeezing Sean over here. And he's not the only one, by the way. Should we answer questions, Sean? Because we're getting near the end,
Yeah. We got about 15 minutes. So... Okay. All right, that's not a question. All right, so if folks have some questions, my first one for you is, what does AI think the probability that there was a massive cover-up was?
If you do the Roswell Turing test with deep research,
Yeah.
it leads towards that. I'm not going to put a number, but I would say 70, 80% with that particular test. However, if you show it more data, more affidavits, more statements by Brush, by people under oath, Elizondo, and I could go on and on and on here, all right? It's very high. There is a cover up there lying to us. I feel like you don't have to. Here's the deal. You can believe firmly and be confident that we're being lied to, because we're being lied to about everything else. Why wouldn't they lie about this too? Do you actually believe they're telling you the truth about this? No, they're going to keep lying about everything. Everything is a lie, basically. Anymore.
Yeah, they don't even need to lie about this. They lie about everything else.
Yeah,
so it's like,
so why would they all of a sudden? You're going to believe them that? Yeah, about the UAP situation, the history of it, and what's going on in Jersey and Lake and Heath.
Roswell case closed. Closed.
Roswell case closed. No, they have destroyed their credibility. They have ran their own credibility into the mud, into the ground, and it's hurting their recruiting. We know this. Grush said so. It's hurting their recruiting, and it will continue to hurt your recruiting until you start fixing your credibility. You can start by passing the NDAA and telling the freaking truth as best as you can, because the existence of the phenomenon itself is not classified.
That's true, but why can't they just show us a body or a craft? Like,
how do you know they have it? How do you know they have it? You don't know that. You don't know that. There's a lot of videos. There's a lot of photos that have leaked over decades, since the 50s. How do you know? If you listen, there are many articles and books written by reputable historians, whatever, like Dawn. Military people have been brought into sessions where they're shown autopsies and stuff. This is well known.
Here's a question for you. Here's a question. How can they say something they don't know what it is? Is FAA approved? What's coming in 2027? Thank you.
Yeah, the FAA approval thing is genius. First of all, I like it because we finally have an official stamp of approval. Trump gave us that. Thank you. But we know the FAA has no idea what the hell's going on. It's not FAA approved. You don't FAA approve your own your own sensitive sites, your own airbase. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was shut down. Lake and Heath was overflowed. Japan, there's an airbase in Japan. It was our own airbase overflowed. Nah. You don't overflow your own rear areas. There is nothing to be gained here. There's no nuclear assets being sniffed for in multiple continents. We know it's over multiple. It's not just Jersey. By the way, you can trace the mystery drones back on the West Coast, not the West Coast, on the central part of the United States for years, right? We know there's other air bases that have been overflown, right? So Langley, for example, Chris Mellon, the man who shall not be spoken of, who's been purged from history, has mentioned Langley many times, right? It's Langley. So, I know he's a non-person now, but I think he's telling the truth, because we got there's like FOIAs on the warzone.com talking about it. And what's coming in 2027? Now, here's the interesting thing. If there is a theory, I don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but there's a hypothesis called Pax Extraterrestre that AI's come up with, right? And in that theory, or that hypothesis,
this is for 2027, right?
Yeah, this is 2027. The old gods are coming back to manage the plantation. That's a possibility. And they have planted rumors, the anxiety spiking us. They're coming back. Now, here's the reality. We don't control our airspaces. And as Elizondo says, we're not the top dog in the apex chain. We're not the top dog here. So are the old gods coming back to anxiety spike us? Is another 47 wave coming? There's another, there's an author who comes on your show once in a while, Preston Dennett. Okay. Mm-hmm. He said, he's a smart guy. He has great books. He has many cases in there, a great researcher. He says it's about time the phenomenon shows itself again. It hides, but it comes back and spikes us. It's always manipulating us in the backgrounds and the shadows. It'll spike us and fly overhead, and then Thomas Edison himself gets inspired to think about airplanes back in the old days in the 1890s, right? 96, 97 wave. Or it flies overhead of DC, the anxiety spike the DC folks. Or it flies over an airbase. Or it flies over a nuke plant. Or it turns on the nukes in Soviet Union, right? It screws with our nukes. Or it flies over Jersey, just as the MIRVs start flying in the Ukraine war, right? It's it's the control system hypothesis. I think there's something to it, at least. It's both inspiring us. That's the weird thing about it. It's not just putting the hammer down constantly, right? It's not like abusive and, always suppressing us. No, it's also inspiring us because we see existence proof of advanced objects in our airspaces. Either inspires us to get to flight through airplanes or balloons or perhaps metric engineering in the future. Like these things exist and they're incredible and they must follow laws of physics because obviously everything has to. The true laws of physics. I don't believe in the woo. I don't believe in paranormal at all. I think it's all laws of physics and quantum physics. And by the way, the AI threads that I launched several of them, I tell it that straight out. I'm like, there is no paranormal. It must be quantum physics or physics 100%. Maybe it's it's beyond state of the art, but there needs to be at least some, credible, hints in those directions, and there typically are. So, anyhow, what's the question here?
Next question.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. In the Majestic 2017 release, I love this one. It says something very interesting. We are already in space. That's a quote. And so there's many interpretations of that. Many. Okay, it's at least a triple entendre. If you're an SSP fan, Secret Space Program, that means we're already in space. So maybe there's the hot space babes. Maybe there's humans on other planets, right? Who the hell knows? There are many possibilities in this. It's a huge universe out there. And by the way, there's many eyewitnesses that have come and visited, apparently, and are not many eyewitnesses, witnesses who stated that they have been, there was a disc or an object that landed and people got out and they looked just like you and me. You could not tell a difference. They look like humans. There's United States Air Force pilots who said that, by the way, who were buried in Miramar Cemetery decades later, right? By the way, the probabilities are shifting right now. As people die, the probabilities shift because we can look and see where they're buried. So if they revealed information in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s, and they were suppressed because they thought people, he's lying. There were no saucers flying over DC in the 50s. Well, guess what? Those whistleblowers are dying in that and being buried in national cemeteries. So you can only get into if you work for, in the U.S. You were in the U.S. military and you serve with honor. So we're seeing all this data come in, and the probabilities are shifting. It's a probability cloud out there, as one of my friends, former coworkers, calls it. He doesn't believe or disbelieve. It's all just a probability cloud to him. And he's like, wow, you know what? It's shifting.
Here's a question. Richard, do you have any advice for investigating media releases like Cover-Up?
Yeah. So UFO Cover-Up Live 1988. I watched it live in 1988 on a Keller TV with not Rabbiters, I think we had cable. And it had Soviet, that was a form of disclosure, actually, in my opinion. It had Soviet researchers live by satellite, a big deal in 1988. By the way, here's how you know something was up. The man named George Knapp calls John, I think it's John Lear, the CIA pilot guy, the king of conspiracy theories, right? But John Lear, there are quotes before UFO Cover-Up Live aired or was made. Months before, like 9 months before approximately, he talked about what was coming. And he was talking to the insiders. I'm seeing patterns in the trading data set where this is all the trading data set, where this guy is talking to insiders. He talked all about the UFO cover-up and some crazy stuff too potentially. But hey, it's a big universe out there. Who knows what's happening? Well, anyway, he was an insider. He knew something was happening. That was clearly. By the way, they had the Gulf Breeze people up there. Gulf Breeze was a big wave. There was also, I believe, the upstate New York waves too. And the public was getting unsettled. So they had to lower the temperature by having a show. Hey, guys, here's the deal. Let's be honest. Let's be frank with each other. I'm from Jersey. We know we're being overflowed, right? We know it. It's the psychology of the air raid shelter applies. I know we're in the air raid shelter, right? You know. West has a sense of it, I'm sure, that we are actually in an air raid shelter, but they have to deny it. It's air raid shelter denialism. They have to go on with their lives, even though the enemy planes are flying over once in a while. They have to move on because it's stressful, right? But when the enemy planes, and I'm not saying they're all enemies, by the way, I'm just an analogy, it's a metaphor. When the planes go overhead and they hear the buzz really loudly, voices emerge, whistleblowers are given to us by the emperor, right? The Coliseum goes live, Grush comes out and gives a show, right? Under oath. It's a show. They have to do it. They have to lower the temperature. And it makes sense from MJ, if there is an MJ-12, and Dr. Davis said a few weeks ago, really like a month and a half ago on Soul Conference Q&A, that there is an MJ-12. they got to come out and say, hey, we have experts working on this. We have databases. By the way, they're not approved databases, though. You were never approved to get that data. You didn't ask. I was the first to ask for permission. That's all you had to do, and you didn't do it. But the elites are trying to say, we have people, we have secret groups at USAP, SAPs, whatever. We're working on this. Chill. We got men, the best men. I mean, in the old 50 cents, it's men and women, of course. You know, we got the top people working on this problem. Go back to work. It's business as usual. There are no saucers. It's FAA approved.
All right, last question. What would be your 2 questions to ask to get us the truth?
Here's the deal. There is a secret. I'm told there is a top secret. 1954, Edwards Air Force Base. Everybody should know this. This is part of the lore. February to April. Now, in between February to April, right? Between the meetings, what happened? The biggest H-bomb test America ever conducted is in the middle of that in history. I could go look it up. It might have been Castle Bravo from memory, but it's a big one. It was a cluster. It was a mess. Japanese fishermen got hurt. Big H-bomb explosion. Way bigger than they thought. Now, in Scully's archive, he knew that shit was going down with Edwards in 53. He knew. He was a professional journalist, I think Columbia, right? He was trained. Real journalist. He took notes on his typewriter. We have all these things. They're public now. It's from the University of Wyoming, American Heritage Center. So he never published it. So we know things were going down at Edwards, right? And Grush said they had met with them. I think the Hulliman landing is a misdirection. The action was at Edwards. They had something. They had an occupant in custody, and they had a saucer. And the American public actually heard about it from Jack Edwards in January. And Frank Scully and BSRA have inside information which corroborates each other and corroborates the public information. There are letters in Scully's archive that are absolutely incredible. Richard Dolan, I hope, will be able to read. So my question, I think we should get, now the European researchers I know have done their own investigations, and they didn't believe me, and they came back and they said, you know what, Rich, that is the biggest secret that the Americans have, is what happened at Edwards Air Force Base in 1954. You know what I think happened, Sean? I think Einstein was there. I think there's an alternate history that's actually reality. That I think the paperclip guys were there, as the witnesses said. Everything I'm telling you, the witnesses said. I think it happened. I think something big happened. They had something landed or crashed, perhaps an air base or desert or whatever, and they got something. Maybe a biological android, like the Greys, as some say. Maybe a live occupant that looks like UAP. I don't freaking know. They called them men back then, by the way. They didn't call them aliens or Greys. So
Spacemen,
right? I'm going with the roll with this. Okay, I'm telling you, as a man compiling training data, I'm getting journalist, high quality, typewritten, really easily OCR'd, archival grade chain of custody documents that corroborate strongly shit was happening there. And if I go research all the whistleblowers who've spoken, it leads to high naval intelligence or admirals who said shit happened, or their sons who were Marines said things were going on there. I think the reality is they've been interacting with this phenomenon for a very long time. And I would listen. I don't know what would I ask. I would love to sit down with Frank Scully. I would love to know, who were you interacting with? I know you were talking to people at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I know you were talking to people at Lockheed. If I could go back in time, I need to sit down with Frank Scully. I need to get in his head and say, hey, dude, who are the whistleblowers? Why didn't you put their names in the archive? You went to your grave with their names. I looked for all the leaks. I've scanned the archive. I cannot find hardly any. I found one name for sure. It was a Lockheed guy and his number. So we could further research him. Can't pronounce his last name, but I would love to talk to Scully and ask him key questions. I believe we could talk to Frank Scully. A lot of this. And by the way, he was knighted by the Pope. Sean's theory is that to keep it quiet, which could be something to it. By the way, every time you investigate this phenomenon deeply, you find, I'm not, big on this, but you find a Catholic hierarchy there. You find bishops that show up at Edwards Air Force Base in 1984, like Bishop McIntyre. You find, all these key people involved in the situation behind the scenes, interviewing pilots who are eventually, buried in national cemeteries, right? You find their researchers working for the Vatican. You find the Catholic guys visiting the Vatican in the 40s who are also interacting with the men in the military establishment who were trying to cover up the 47 flyovers. Anyway, here's the deal. This is very advanced research. I know most people probably, who are part of the UAP subject would think probably Rich just sprung a leak, which is fine. I don't care. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I'm not selling anything to anybody either. I don't care. My software is open source. Go use it. It's free.
Final question.
But,
Has the model
yeah.
found anything out about Antarctica?
Oh, that's a good question. I will ask this question.
High jump?
Next. Yeah,
High jump?
it's good. Listen, I think metaphorically speaking, at least, that there's something. My personal opinion, it's a metaphor that U.S. military went to the ends of the earth to research this, and they found something, and it's being hidden from us. That's my opinion. It's like a metaphor away. The elites that run the system, now this isn't a Roman kind of metaphor. They throw us scraps. They throw us legends. It's revelation of the method, right? They give us movies like Close Encounters, things like that. They have their advisors pushing behind the narratives.
All right. I think that's time. So thank you, everyone.
Mr. Al.
Thank
you for
Rich.
listening. Click and subscribe. Subscribe and spread the word to this poor man who can't get enough, please.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.